For sure, that's what friends are. together as one. There are people dying. Oh, and it's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. We can't go on pretending day by day that the moon somewhere will soon make a change. We all a part of
Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters. We are definitely the world. We are truly the children. So we have the responsibility, each and every one of us, to ensure that we do our part in making this world a better place to live in. It's each and every one of us' responsibility to do so. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to spend some time with me and Coach T. I'm hoping that we will be blessed to hear Coach T, that, as you know, he's very busy in the financial world. And so he's definitely handling his business. And I look forward to him each and every time he comes on board to give us an update on the financial matters. But before I continue, I would like to give out the disclaimer that we always give out before we get started. And that disclaimer is simply this. Me and Coach T are not financial gurus. We're not tax preparers. We're not politicians. We're not statesmen. But what we are individuals who know the importance of being involved in those matters. The two matters in particular are the financial arena and the political arena. These are the two subject matters that we devote our time to each and every Sunday during this time. And we are very thankful for our podcast audience who comes and join us in this information that's important to each and every one of us. And so we thank you, as we always do, for your participation. This afternoon, I'm going to be focusing on some information that many of us, unfortunately, are not aware of, although we participate in it each and every day. But in that participation, it's the fact that we don't know we're participating in this matter, that others are becoming awoke to it. And so this is my efforts to awaken the Knowledge is the New Power podcast audience to what's being awoken around the world. Because globally, people are beginning to understand why the world is in the condition that it's in today. And so I'm asking everybody to not accept or agree with what you're about to hear, but as always, do your own research, as I have done mine, to come to the conclusion that I have came to. Because I know each and every one of you on the call today are very intelligent people, and you have the ability to think, and hopefully you are thinking for yourself. You're not allowing the thoughts of others to think for you, but you are utilizing your God-given intelligence to think for yourself. And that's all I'm asking you to do. That's all I'm asking for you to do this afternoon, is to not believe anything I have to say, but to think for yourself and do the research, as I mentioned before, that I have done to come to the conclusion that I have come to give you the ability to talk about this information in a way that I know that it's information, unfortunately, that hasn't been displayed or hasn't been, how can I say it? It hasn't been taught. That's the right word. It hasn't been taught in our public school systems. It hasn't been taught in the colleges and universities that you may have attended. It hasn't been taught in mainstream America, because hopefully you have found out that mainstream America has its own agenda. And a lot of us haven't taken the time to find out about mainstream America's agenda, to see if it agrees with our own personal agenda or if it conflicts our agenda. And so I'm going to play this video that describes a condition that too many of us, again, are participating in, but we don't know what we're participating in and what the effects it has not only on us, but on our brothers and sisters globally around the world. And so it's time for us to start, if we're not doing it already, to open up our minds internationally, to see what the foreign policies of America, how it's affecting the global community. Is it fair? Is it right? Does it help humanity grow? Or does it do the very opposite? These are the questions, or these are the conditions that I'm getting you to think about if you haven't thought about it already. And so without further ado, let me go ahead and cue up the video. And then after we review it, I would like to have the questions and answers session so that we can talk about what we just heard. And so here we go, brothers and sisters.
What we know about the history of white folks abusing the continent of Africa. We know about the Berlin Conference, where literally they got together and split up Africa and said, well, who's going to take different parts? We know about King Leopold killing more people. Let me be very clear, killing more people in the Congo than Hitler killed Jews in Europe. We can go on and on and on how the French, how the British, how the United States, all of these countries raped and pillaged the continent of Africa. Now we have the caucasity of Eric Prince, the founder of Blackwater, the largest private military company in the world. He actually said this in a recent interview.
All this talk of illegal migration in Europe, in the United States, it ultimately comes down to a contest of what is governance. Which countries are governed well? And if so many of these countries around the world are incapable of governing themselves, then it's time for us to put the imperial hat back on to say, we're going to govern those countries if you're incapable of governing yourselves, because enough is enough. We're done being invaded.
Because our own national security risk is at stake.
Exactly.
National security interests are at stake.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris instead of actually making their country better.
People on the
land.
left are going to watch this. They're going to say, wait a minute, Eric Prince is talking about being a colonialist again.
Absolutely. Yes. Enough. Because if you go to these countries and you see how they suffer under absolutely corrupt, made-up governments that are just criminal syndicates, the people of Africa, the people of Latin America, a lot of them deserve better. Now, some countries are really getting it together. Look at what El Salvador did. Bukele, murder capital of Latin America, he said, no more. Now El Salvador is safer than Prince William County.
And he took
just
all
south
the
of Washington, D.C. He put all the
drug cartel
MS-13 guys
leaders in prison.
Ecuador, about to do the same thing. New president there. The previous presidential candidate had been assassinated, but new guy gets elected. He announces he's contracted with the same building contractor that they built the prisons in El Salvador, going to build them in Ecuador. The prisoners there, the cartels revolt and try to take over the capital in Ecuador a couple weeks ago. So it's not all bad. There's some great governance. I like at Argentina. God bless Milei. I mean, yes. So, but the countries that cannot fix themselves, particularly in Africa, the worst, it's time to think about other governance options because they are clearly not capable of self-government.
The countries in Africa that cannot fix themselves. See, that's quite interesting that you would hear Eric Prince say those things because, and y'all do know that his sister is Betsy DeVos, who served as the education secretary under Donald Trump. This shows that she's an idiot and her brother's an idiot because they don't know anything about American history. In fact, I'm going to use one particular country y'all heard me just mention, the Congo. There's a book, great conversation. Go to the Black Table discussion with Dr. Greg Carr on the Black Star Network, and he had a phenomenal conversation with Stuart Reed. Stuart Reed is the author of this book. This book is called The Lumumba Plot, The Secret History of a CIA and a Cold War Assassination. Stuart Reed details in this book that Lumumba came to the United States and during one of his visits after he became prime minister. And in a particular meeting, President Dwight Eisenhower gave the order to assassinate Lumumba, to take him out. It is documented by some that this was the first time in American history where a president gave a direct order to take out a foreign leader. I don't believe that's the case, though. So here they are. They get their independence from Belgium. 2 months in, the CIA and others work to kill Lumumba. Here you murder, you align with his opponents, you kill him, the country goes into chaos, leads to Mobutu becoming a dictator. Let me say it again. We helped put a dictator in office, and that country is still trying to gain its footing since it got its independence. What would the Congo look like today had the United States not aligned with others to take out Patrice Lumumba in the Congo? Let's go on to some other countries. Folks in the control room, pull up a book called Overthrow. Folks, the author is Stephen Kinzer. And also I can pull up myself. Stephen Kinzer, longtime New York Times writer. He wrote a particular book that all of you need to read, and it's called Overthrow. The book details the 13 examples where the United States directly overthrew other governments. Oh, y'all don't hear me. Y'all don't hear me. 13 different times the United States actually overthrew other governments. Yeah. What I'm saying is absolutely correct. So here we are talking, here's Eric Prince talking about these other countries and how they now have all of these problems, and we must take these countries over in order to get them under control because these people can't govern themselves. Yet we, the United States, play a role in making this happen. This is the book right here, Overthrow: America's Century of Regime Change from Hawaii to Iraq. We can detail what took place in Libya. We can talk about what happened in Guatemala. Are y'all aware, Kinzer writes it in his book, that the Panama Canal originally was not supposed to go through Panama. That was supposed to go through another country. But the United States told that country, oh, in order for you to finance the canal, you have got to use American banks. The country said, no, we're good. We got a better deal with European banks. So the United States, along with a PR company, created this entire story that was a lie, that there was a particular volcano in this country that hadn't erupted in centuries, somehow could erupt, and that will destroy the canal. That's how it was built in a canal. In fact, let me just go ahead and stay on Panama. Noriega was running drugs in Panama. Guess who payroll Noriega was on? The CIA's. Come on. Do y'all even know where the phrase banana republic comes from? The phrase banana republic comes from United States and other countries overthrowing governments because the plantation owners control the land. They control the country. So the phrase a banana republic comes from, again, the overthrow of governments, to aid economics. Let's not talk about Chile. Kinzer details that ITT, one of the first global companies, called the CIA and said, hey, we'll pay for y'all to overthrow Chile. They said, hold up now, we ain't really down for that yet. So they told ITT, thanks, but no thanks. They then came back a couple of years later when Allende became the president. Allende said, wait a minute. Why are we sitting here, all these other companies controlling telecommunications, controlling all of our economics? Allende says, we're going to nationalize this. America, oh hell no. Whoa, hold up. You talking about you going to nationalize all this stuff? That means these American companies not going to keep making all this money? No, hell no. Guess what we did? Call ITT. We overthrow Chile. Got rid of Allende. Put in Pinochet. who killed millions of folks. America did that. I'm sorry. Why were the Iranians so pissed off at us in 1979? The story that we've all been told, the Iranians, the Ayatollah, Khomeini, the crazy rabid Muslims, they took over the country, want to destroy our freedoms. See, you can't talk about 1979 and the hostage crisis if you skip over 1953, 26 years earlier. And now you might say, well, Roland, what happened 26 years earlier? Well, there was a democratically elected prime minister. His name was Mossadegh. Mossadegh said, I don't understand. How is all of this oil ours? And we only get like 5 to 7% of the money. Why is British Anglo-Iranian oil, now known as BP, how are they taking all the money? So Mossadegh said, no, we're keeping our oil to rebuild our country. The British said, oh, hell no, you're not. Because y'all got to understand, the British economy had been taken. All of that Iranian oil was paying for the British economy. They said, no, you're not. Oh, no, you're not. But see, the British, y'all, the British wasn't trying to go as far as overthrowing the government in Iran. The United States went, we'll do it. We got y'all. So the United States began to distribute flyers in the country, pushing out misinformation in Iran against Mossadegh. Took out Mossadegh, put in a general. The general wouldn't do what America said. We then took the general out, and we then said, here's the Shah. So we put in the Shah of Iran. Put the Shah of Iran in, then we, our CIA, trained the Shah's thugs. So the Shah's thugs that were beating down on people all across the country, put them in place. Now do the math. If you were 18 years old in 1953, by the way, Iran loved America. Iran loved America. After this, Iran hated America. So you 18 years old in 1953. You 10 years old in 1953. Well, 26 years later, you 36. You 44. So the uprising in 79 can be traced back to 1953. Chavez, when he became president of Venezuela, oh, hell no. Don't you dare nationalize the oil. Company called Citgo. You ain't doing that. Don't you do that. Y'all, we could run through a list of South American countries. I ain't even mentioned us wanting to take over Cuba. We can run through South American countries, Latin American countries. We can run through African countries. We can go through the Middle East, and we will show. Y'all heard in the thing he said, America's national interests. We, the United States. See, this is the stuff they never wanted to teach us in school. One of the reasons why you have instability all over the country is because you had the United States, John Foster Dulles, Allen Dulles. Yeah, Dulles Airport, named after one of them. They were the ones, Secretary of State, running the CIA, And that was American foreign policy. Take your pick. Nicaragua, Guatemala, Panama, Venezuela, Mexico, on and on and on. So all of the countries that Erik Prince is now saying they can't run their country, it's because we, along with the French and the British, destabilized those countries, destabilized the leadership by taking the leadership out, paid for overthrows and coups in those countries, and now we trying to say, I don't know how y'all don't know how to act, I don't know how y'all don't know how to run your own country, when we the ones who actually created the very destabilization that we're talking about today. And last point, we then took the resources, or we put the clamps on the countries by using economics. Any of y'all read that book, The Diary of an Economic Hitman? How we sat here and saddled many of these countries after they got their freedom with enormous amounts of debt, took over their ports, took control of their treasury and their banks, and now saddle them with massive debt they can't never repay. Country gets mad, inflation high, food prices high, gas prices high, wages low, creates dissension in the country, and now the people in the country are constantly fighting because of the economics, and we are the ones who actually made it happen. In this very short time, I've laid out to you what American foreign policy was for most of the 20th century. And here you have this thug, Erik Prince, who wants to blame the very people for their problems when he does not want to hold accountability for the real culprits of the instability, and that has been the West. Michael Imhotep. You're on mute. There you go. There you go. You're on. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, you laid out an extensive history dealing with the U.S. and other foreign powers being involved in overthrowing governments of African nations, Latin American nations. Guatemala comes to mind, 1954. CIA overthrew the democratically elected president to protect the interests of the United Fruit Company. And they were afraid that the fruit company would lose land. You talked about the Congo, Patrice Lumumba, CIA, 1961. We can look at Libya as well, when you had the U.S., France, and Great Britain, when President Barack Obama was in office. You had Muammar Gaddafi assassinated, and then it caused instability, even though there were problems in Libya, but it got much worse. There were some good things in Libya as well. It got much worse after he was assassinated. You talked about the Berlin Conference, 1884, 1885, and the country that probably got the most from the Berlin Conference was Great Britain. And a lot of this history came out when Queen Elizabeth II died, and it was talked about how much land and how much wealth Great Britain got because of the Berlin Conference. So what we're looking at is a history of colonialism, instability. We can look at the conquering by Spain of various countries, whether it's Cuba, whether it's Puerto Rico, whether it's Argentina, et cetera, and then the continuation of this colonization. So Erik Prince is operating in the tradition of a long line of colonizers, going back to Christopher Columbus, okay, who colonized Hispaniola, where Haiti is, who colonized Puerto Rico and Honduras and Panama, Jamaica. A lot of these places where we like to go on vacations were conquered by Spain, and African slaves were taken in, and plantations are set up, and European nations are enriched off the back of African people and Latinos, et cetera. So, you know, there should be more done to expose what he's talking about. And I guarantee you, if Trump gets in office, we want to make sure this doesn't happen if Biden's reelected, number one. But two, if Trump gets in office, I guarantee you Trump is going to try to execute what Erik Prince is talking about.
Go to my iPad here. You see, it was called, Kelly, the Scramble for Africa.
Yes.
And it's where the European Conference, again, the Berlin Conference, 1884 to 1885, where they literally split up the countries. In fact, people don't even realize Nigeria was never a country. They literally created Nigeria. I'm going to pull up in a second that particular history as well. Before I go to Kelly, I did an interview with General Colin Powell, the late General Colin Powell. And I specifically asked him the question that speaks to this very issue. Play it.
That's what's happening in the Middle East, because I'm talking about leadership. We weren't alive when this country was founded, and there's difficult struggles. And it's bothering me that Americans don't understand that this is what happens in new democracies, where you have this struggle, this fight for leadership. And so your assessment of what's happening right now, I mean, isn't that really what's going on? They're trying to they'll find their way.
What's happening right now in the Middle East, and it's sort of reflective of our own democracy. It wasn't easy. You don't just pick up a book and learn how to do democracy. You have to practice it. You have to exercise it. And so when some of these autocratic leaders left in Egypt and Tunisia, Libya, and places like that, there's no democracy just ready to spring up. You got to grow it. And you grow it by people believing in their country, by people respecting the new leadership, by different sections of the country coming together and not fight over the spoils. And above all, by creating institutions of democracy, how to vote, law, corporate law so you can protect the economy, civil rights that are protected, a free press, the end of corruption. Those are the seeds of democracy. So don't be shocked that we're having this kind of difficulty in the Arab Spring countries, because they have to learn how to be Democrats and small d. They have to learn how to govern themselves. And America has an important role to play in helping them learn. We can't do it for them. They don't want us to do it for them. But they want us to help. Just kind of let us figure it out. You be there to help us when we need your help.
Kelly?
Powell. And he's absolutely right. But also going back specifically to Erik Prince's comments, which alluded to the notion, the incorrect notion that America is perfect, that if only America would step in and take over and, you know, do what we do, everything will be okay. And I come back to this question, what are you trying to mimic over there? Because we are by no means perfect. In fact, the things that we have put onto other countries to do, being democracy, being voting rights, being civil rights, being human rights, we barely have that at home now. So how exactly are you to teach someone else when you don't even know how to apply it to your own governments here correctly anyway? And I'm not saying that we are as bad as, you know, other countries that are in the baby stages of building their own democracies. But look around us right now as we are preparing for an election. Our voting rights have been gutted. We have virtually, or we are very close to virtually having no human rights as women in regards to controlling our own bodies. The list goes on. So it's not just the absurdity of the notion of America should just step in and recolonize. It's the hypocrisy that America is good enough to do that anyway.
It is simple. Erik Prince wants to plunder and control these countries the same way previous white colonists did.
I don't know if that was for me.
That's for you. That's for you. That's for you.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear it, but
so I said Matt. Go ahead.
First, I have to laud you, Roland, because I think that was a masterclass in history that's necessary for the context. And all I'll add is really kind of three things. First, this is not localized just to foreign policy. This is the exact playbook that we see in the domestic side when you have disinvestment of communities, you have plundering of communities, and then once a city or municipality determines that that community is now advantageous politically, which we've seen across the country. They go in and steal the land, and they vilify the people who are living there, despite having underinvested and destabilized the community through disinvestment. So the first thing is that, there are corollaries on the domestic end, which we see primarily in our black and brown communities across this country. But the second thing is, there's a lot of subterfuge here, because not only is it paternalistic, right, and acting like these countries, one, don't have the sovereignty and the autonomy to govern themselves, but the reality is there's a race. It's a land grab. We know that the Chinese are paying or buying 1/5 of sub-Saharan African exports and are investing in Africa incredibly as they are in Latin America. And I think the reality of it is some of it is a subterfuge to do exactly what you said, the perfect word, plunder, to go in and to try to find a way to get the reins over these governments and then take those natural resources the way it's been done since time immemorial. And the third point I wanted to mention is I actually happen to be reading right now The Colonizer and the Colonized by Albert Memmi. And if you read this book, which is about the colonization of Tunisia and Algeria in the 1950s, he outlines exactly what the European powers did in terms of destabilization, and not only destabilization, the psychological elements that they used on those they were colonizing to try to make them aspire to assimilation and also hate themselves, to create that tension so that they can go in and take those resources and plunder. So that's all it is. It's a monetary thing. It's a land grab, and it's couched in this, we have to help them because they can't help themselves, despite the fact that the things they're allegedly unable to help themselves from are direct consequences of repeated and concerted efforts to destabilize and plunder. So we're seeing the byproduct of that and the recontinuation of that through the paternalism to act as though they can't govern themselves, despite having the sovereignty and autonomy to do so.
You see, folks, this is why what we have to do is what I have called the education beyond the education. There's the formal education, there's the informal education. And so I was pulling up here, and so a phenomenal book of Stephen Kinzer. Go to my iPad. I read this book here. It's called All the Shah's Men, An American Coup and the Roots of Middle East Terror. An unbelievable book for you to begin to understand what happened in Iran and why these countries in the Middle East feel the way they do about the United States today. This other book, boom, Bitter Fruit, The Untold Story of the American Coup in Guatemala. Same thing. You see right here, it says right here, though the events in Bitter Fruit happened almost 28 years ago, there's an intriguing similarity to some of the phrase-making of the State Department in Central America today. It is a tale of dirty tricks, the manipulation of public opinion, the smearing of the precious few journalists who managed to dissense what was really going on, and a foreign policy that borrowed more from Doonesbury than diplomacy. It is a fast-paced and well-documented history, a thoughtful and compelling book. I just want y'all to understand that these things are real. We can't act like these things, simply did not happen. I told you about the Dulles brothers. They controlled American foreign policy. They were the ones who led the Bay of Pigs, and it was Kennedy who fired them. This book here is also a stunning one. The brothers, John Foster Dulles, Allen Dulles, and their secret world war. It details, again, John Foster Dulles was Secretary of State. His brother was Director of the Central Intelligence, where they literally were sitting here plotting and overthrowing numerous countries. All I'm trying to say, folks, is that when you listen to people like Erik Prince, he wants to be them. They want to dominate these countries. They want to control their resources. They want to control their money. That's what's going on here, and we better understand and not just go, oh, that guy's talking crazy. No, it's not. Not when he has military contracts. I'm telling y'all, if you read this book and if you read Overthrow, go back to my back to my iPad. Overthrow just blew me away. I'm telling y'all, you read this, you will begin to understand what happens today. The problem that we have in this country is that when we talk about today, we're not factoring in the last 50, 60, 70 years and more. We're not. So we're just like, oh, what's going on today? Nope. There are reasons why many of these countries have instability and have unstable leadership. And it's because, in many of these cases, the United States of America played a role in destabilizing these countries.
All right, brothers and sisters. Rowan makes a very powerful statement and powerful point about the United States of America. And now you guys know. And what I suggest that you do, as I stated earlier in the show, that you need to do your own research to learn what Roland, myself, and others who have done that research have learned about this country and how this country has gotten its riches, its power. And so you have to go back, as Roland suggested. He said go back 10, 70 years or so forth. But I'm saying, and what I have already done, is to go back to the inception of the United States of America, when it was first formed. Of course, you got to ask yourself, back in 1776, when the United States claimed its independence from Great Britain, and I question the sincerity of that claim because of what Great Britain and also the United States of America has done. Both of them has done the very same thing, which is overthrowing governments to claim their country's natural resources. And I might say that the very first government that the United States of America has overthrown is this government that was here prior to the government that was formed, that's now called the United States of America. You got to ask yourself, what was here before the colonizers were here? What was established before they came over here from Great Britain? And you see, I'm not what's the word I'm trying to say? I don't want you to echo what you were programmed to think from the educational system that we all went through. That was their story, to make it seem like what they did was legit. Now I'm talking about you taking the time now to unravel the truth of the matter. Because now the information is readily available for all to see, for all to learn. So there's no excuse other than you not willing to do so, because you want to keep what was programmed in your mind for many, many years, depending on how old you are. That you don't want to take the time to challenge what you currently have in your mind as history. And Roland just mentioned a couple of books that challenges that information. The Berlin Conference of 1884, where all those European countries got together and strategized how they're going to carve up the continent of Africa. I read that book. I know about the Berlin Conference. How many of you know about that? I know about the Congo and how Leopold literally raped its country. Give you a little tidbit of information. Firestone, the tire company, rubber, was and is raping this country because of its natural resources of rubber to make their product of tires. Yes, Firestone. Some of you may have Firestone tires on your vehicles, but you never knew at what price had to be paid for you to be driving around with Firestone tires on your vehicles. And that's just one of many companies who benefited from the term Banana Republic. The first, as I mentioned before, Banana Republic is this country. You know, where did the United States of America, who were the colonists from Great Britain, where did they get their natural resources, brothers and sisters? Did you ever ask yourself that question? This country that you're supporting, that you're a part of, and how did you become an American in the first place? What were you, or I should say, what were your ancestors prior to becoming naturalized as an American? What was your nationality prior to becoming a nationalized American? See, these are the questions that I asked myself as I started to unravel the mystery and as I started to challenge my history. You see, I remembered it like it was yesterday because it's now been maybe 40 years on this journey of challenging what they taught me in school. You see? And so now, with this information, I'm just conveying it to those who may not have been as fortunate as I have been in unraveling this information. And I have to give credit where credit is due. I have to give credit to my father, to my mother, and to my big mom because of how they raised me. They raised me to be intelligent. They raised me to think for myself. They raised me to question what I have been taught because they knew through their experience the lies that has been told. And so they were the first inspirations of qualifying all that I have learned to make sure that what I have learned was based on the truth and not based on colonization. Because, brothers and sisters, if you don't know it, by now, let me share it with you. We, as a people, have been colonized as a people. And we, as a people, although we have been through a lot, what we have been through has not, and I repeat, has not caused us to be decolonized. Because we have not done what is needed to decolonize ourselves. What we have been doing is the continuation of assimilation. And you heard that word, one of the folks on the video mentioned assimilation. We have become assimilates to the United States of a country, the United States of America. We have not integrated. We have always been assimilated. And if you don't know the difference between integration and simulation, let that be one of the first terms that you look up and research on. Because to this day, brothers and sisters, we have still haven't done what is necessary to decolonize ourselves. And so you got to ask yourself, when the continent of Africa, back in the late 50s and early 60s, were doing what it took to decolonize themselves, to become independent states that were governed by them, that this person wants to colonize them again because they said that they're not capable of running their own government. Not mentioning that what the CIA and others have done to destabilize their government, you see. And I might say what this government has done to us as the indigenous people on this land to destabilize we no longer are participating in some of us are no longer participating in the government prior to the United States of America government. But what America has done in the very beginning in order to steal the natural resources of this land here You see? You got to understand that the very companies, the industries, and I might be hitting deep with some of you, but you got to understand the very companies, the industries, the corporations that many of us are working for, that are enabling us to provide a living for ourselves and our family, is based on the banana public, which is based on the destabilization of the indigenous people's government prior to this government that's commonly called the United States government. We got to be honest with ourselves, brothers and sisters. These are the type of questions that must be answered. Because what I'm saying is that there is a remedy to this problem. And until we are mature enough, mentally, psychologically, to ask those questions, and then to handle the answers to those questions, things will continue to be the same. You see, we have an obligation to our ancestors to set the record straight. See, we can't no longer go along to get along. And a lot of that going along to get along is simply out of our own ignorance of what we found ourselves being a part of. That's where doing your own research comes into play. It's your responsibility to do that research, just like it was my responsibility to do my research. I'm just like you, brothers and sisters. I grew up in this country thinking one way. Maybe one of the differences is that you didn't have parents and a big mom like I had, who maybe understand the importance of thinking for yourselves. You see, they were doing things in our community that a lot of our people weren't doing. Just to give you a background where I came from. See, we were able to, I grew up. I didn't grow up. How can I say this? I grew up in our neighborhoods because I had relatives who, how can I say this? I had relatives who were not as fortunate financially as my family was. So I didn't struggle in that area like some of my cousins and aunts and uncles struggled, because I had a family that stuck together. See, my mother and father and big mom, where other people might have just one income or two incomes, we always had three. So, you do the math. You can do more with three incomes than you can ever do with just one or two. So that's why we always had more than the typical family, because the typical family, someone was just struggling just to have one income. And so it afforded me the opportunity to really focus on me, because I didn't have to worry about where my next meal was coming from, or if I was going to have a place to stay, or, those things that some of us took for granted as always being there. And my mother and father, Big Mama, kept us, me and my sisters, grounded because we didn't make a big deal out of what we had. And it afforded us the ability to spend time with our relatives who weren't as fortunate. It wasn't a big deal to us. And hopefully it wasn't a big deal to them. And thinking back, it must not have, but they didn't show it because we felt comfortable around them. That was our relative. That's kin folks. Didn't matter if Big Mom rode around in an up-to-date Cadillac. It didn't matter, the material things that we were able to accumulate. You see? So my whole mindset was totally different. And so when I grew up as an adult, material things didn't mean that much to me because I always had those things in the very beginning. And so I didn't go overboard as to, trying to get all these material things. That wasn't a part of my world. And I noticed how my mother and father, Big Mama, although they were able to get the things they were able to get, they stayed grounded, man. They didn't have no big head. They didn't think they were better than anybody just because they were able to do what they were able to do. So they passed that type of behavior, that type of attitude on to me. So I was able to go to places that maybe other people who thought just because they had a master's degree, now they're bigger than the average, brothers and sisters simply because they were educated, so-called educated. And now they were able to afford a big house, a car, and all this other stuff. See, that was never a priority with me. What was always a priority with me was figuring out why, as a people, we were catching hell. We were catching hell more than any other groups of people on this planet. That's what I was focusing on. And my so-called education, my formal education, didn't give me the answers. My so-called religious organizations or institutions didn't give me the answers. The NAACP, the Urban League, and all the other so-called black institutions didn't give me the answers. So I had to find out, because it was a burning desire within myself to find out what the heck was going on with us. Why were we the only people that didn't know our identity? So throughout our lives, we were identified as Negroes, blacks, coloreds, Indians, African Americans, Moorish Americans, Christians, Hebrewites, Muslims. We were, depending on your journey, were identified by many names, but none had anything to do with tied us to our land as the indigenous people of this planet. And so those were the type of questions that I needed answers to. And so I wasn't gonna rest until I got those answers. So maybe that's the reason why I didn't go after my doctor's degree or those advanced degrees that a lot of people went after. because it didn't answer the questions that I needed answers to. And to me, it was just another waste of time because I had to find out what is causing us to be in the condition that we are in today. And as Brother Roland and others on that video mentioned, that you had to go back. You said 70 years, but I went back further than that for my answers. And so it led me to my understanding of today. So forgive me if I'm not your typical so-called black man, because I ain't never been typical in my life. My parents didn't make me typical. My parents made me a person that thought, a person that's always thinking for himself, a person that's a critical thinking, that think out the box that the colonizers has put us in. So yes, we're all where everybody else is content with their, how can I say it? They're content with their careers that they might have. They're satisfied with that. So a lot of them are watching the Super Bowl, you know, or there's nothing wrong with that, brothers and sisters. Don't get me wrong. But it's more to life than the Super Bowl. There's more to life than your career. There's more to life than what you are doing right now to make a living. Especially if you haven't answered the question of why are you still a colonized people? You see? Why are the colonizers who founded the United States of America, right, that was able to take your natural resources because of the Banana Republic that enabled them to overthrow the government? You see, it's like we okay with that because you got a lot of so-called blacks or African Americans who are proud to be an American. You see, not knowing what it is to be an American, what had to happen in order to become an American, what you had to give up. See, a lot of us are totally incompetent with that information. You see? In the process that took place to get you in that psychological condition. They talked about that. The person at the end talked about, you know, the mental condition that you got to be in to be okay with being assimilated. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Some of us are so comfortable that we don't even think it's necessary to participate in this podcast. Because in this podcast, we're going to talk about information that's normally not talked about elsewhere. And some of us, some of us are so comfortable being colonized You see, I have never been comfortable, especially after doing the research and knowing the condition that I'm in, as being a colonized person here in the United States of America, knowing that my true nationality is a Moroccan Moor. That's the government that was here prior to this government. That's the government that the land that had the natural resources that this government stole from us because of the Banana Republic. Some of us don't want to hear that because we've been so brainwashed into the indoctrination that we were indoctrinated as growing up in this country when we went through their educational system. But thank God, I thank God a lot for giving me a brain that allowed me to open up and see for myself the real picture. But I know that some people don't have that ability because they're so caught up on what they were told or what they were taught. So this is where we're at, brothers and sisters, in 2024. So I'm just doing my portion of giving you information that will inspire you to do the research so that you can see or so that you can know for yourself what I know. You see, this information that I know is based on my research. It ain't based on I'm hearing something. Because like I played that video, there's a lot of reference points, those books that they refer to that you need to read. You need to know about the 1884 Berlin Conference. You need to know about that. That ain't what I believe. That's what I know has happened based on history, based on recorded history. How many of you knew that based on the history that was given to you? This is what I'm talking about. You have to challenge everything you were told by this country, knowing how this country got to be what it is today. I'm not proud of it. I have nothing against this country other than how it got to be. They got to be this. United States of America got to be the United States of America at the expense of the indigenous people. That's us, brothers and sisters, at our expense. And now, the way to overcome the overthrow of our government is to reactivate our government that was overthrown. Now is the time to do that. That's what you're witnessing around the world today, is the decolonization of the indigenous people's land through nationalization, knowing your nationality. Because if you didn't pick it up on that video, the only thing that can overcome the Banana Republic, which is the overthrow of the governments, is nationality. That's what the United States of America and all these other colonial nations are afraid of, is the indigenous peoples, as us, brothers and sisters, becoming competent enough to know that we need to nationalize. That's what they don't want you to know. That's what they don't want you to realize. They want you to continue to do what you're doing right now, which has nothing, well, some of y'all, many of y'all, because I know I'm doing different. I'm working with people who are competent and who are learning how to nationalize themselves. But the majority of us are still continuing to do what you've been doing. Many of us are not on the call today because they're preparing themselves to watch the Super Bowl. Although every one of them are still a colonized person. It's like they made it comfortable being colonized. Because you may have a good job, good future, good career. You know, you may live in a nice home. You know, you don't have to worry about your bills. You might have a good business. You know, you might be an entrepreneur, and capitalism is working for you. So you're okay with it. But upon further investigation, the very thing that you're comfortable with is the very thing that's keeping you a slave, is the very thing that's keeping you a colonized person. Man, that's a hell of a dilemma to be in. But that's the dilemma that many of us are in. And some of us are so comfortable because they make it comfortable, because they don't want you to learn, or they don't want you to know what I know. That although I was comfortable, you know, still comfortable, but I'm not comfortable enough to neglect what I need to learn and neglect what I need to do. You know, I can't be asleep knowing that, you know, I'm not living out in the streets. I'm not, you know, I never have been in that predicament, you know, but I still know that, you know, what I have done to make a living is supporting the colonizations of other countries. Just like they have colonized us over here. So knowing this, really understanding this, how can I continue to be content with just having a good career, with just working every day? You know, being an entrepreneur, making, you know, a good living, you know, running a business. You know, how, you know, with the knowledge that I have, you know, how can I be comfortable mentally knowing what I know? I can't, brothers and sisters. I can't. That's why what I do is really therapy for me. Because I got all this information in my head that's true, because I have done the research, and I'm a critical thinker. I know this is what actually happened. This is how the United States of America has gotten in the position that it's in now. I know how they've done it. And I don't agree with it because it's at the expense of the indigenous people of the world, to include us. So how can we be comfortable, even though we're living in the belly of the beast? And some of us may have these good positions because of this. That's the dilemma that some of us are in. And so let me go ahead and open up the lines for the question and answering period, because I'm curious to know what some of you guys got to say. All right, brothers and sisters, speak to me. How do you feel about all that was said thus far? Some of y'all might have to unmute yourself. But you got
Everybody here, Brother Bay. How are you?
Hey, what's happening, my sister?
How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling perplexed.
Well, you're sounding very clear, so explain. Why are you feeling perplexed?
Because, you know, it's sometimes I feel like I'm cursed with the information and with understanding, knowing, you know, what's really going on compared to others who don't have a clue, you know, and how we're running around living a life that on the surface it seems like it's okay, but as you dig deeper, you find out that you're living a life, especially if you are doing so-called well, you know.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, perplexed, one.
Yes.
And then when you began to explain, you said you feel like you are, what was the word you used?
Cursed.
There we go. So, so many who are running around on top of the earth don't realize that levels below the earth, there are cities. Where we are, and I just feel like if everybody believed everything that is shared, they would not be running around, they'd be spinning around. Because we are all purposefully created to do something. So you're not cursed because you're awake, aware, receiving, and believing. That's not a curse. That's a blessing. But taking that blessing and living in it and enjoying it, that would be a bigger blessing, Brother Bay. So yes, your responsibility is to inform and to empower and to educate on what you know in hopes that others will see the light and maybe make a right if that is the life they are to live. Because one of the other things that just popped in my head is that there's so many crosses of race amongst people who could look one way but be something else. And I'm speaking about people who are mixed race. So you could be looking at me kind of brown skin, and not realizing that my grandfather was Irish, or not realizing that my grandmother was half Portuguese. And I'm not saying that Portugal or Ireland are so far away from us, but we never know who we're looking at. So when we share information, the hope may want to be that if it applies to you and you receive it, I look so forward to you joining. But it may not apply to everyone. Because, again, as you know, I believe, we are really electrical beings with flesh and features. And our flesh and features came based on where we were, how we were created, and who we were inserted into, who we were developed by. Don't feel cursed. You're doing a great job. But in what you are doing and in your knowledge, my hope and prayer for you is that you are living a wonderfully exciting and happy and joyful life. That you don't have gray hairs growing because of people who are not receiving and acting on your information. I always say that I think you know how it could be a jar with a very, very, very tight cover. 3 or 4 people try to uncover it, twisting, running it under hot water, twisting, and finally one person opens it. Everybody worked on that. Everybody worked on getting that cover off of that jar, that top off of that bottle. Get to the inside. So I had to, personally, accept the fact, and this has been over a decade or more, that I might not be the end all when I am in conversation with someone. I used to think that, so if I was repeating myself and we kept going back and forth with the same thing, I'm like, you know what, you're not listening. But once I realized that I might be the middle of what that person needs, along the way, the beginning might come, and then the end might come. Doesn't stop me from being the middle, but I'm not the end all. So I am receiving your information. I am hearing. I am learning a lot. So you're not cursed. You're blessed to receive all of the information you receive, to move your life in the direction that, based on your information, you're living your life. But I hope and I pray that you have joy every day. I have a new statement that I've been working on for the last 6 months, give or take, living heaven on earth. Letting that be how we wake up and how we go to sleep. Fulfilled. Doing whatever we do for work, for play, for the greater good of humanity, doing all of that, but in the midst of all of that, enjoying life to the fullest. Don't get discouraged. Don't be disappointed. You may talk to someone, they hear you, they receive you, you enjoy speaking with them because they're speaking back. Have no fear that your words are not resonating as you're sharing them. It may not be for you to see the result. Know that you delivered. And I must say, as I end this, you deliver very well. So please continue. Thank you.
All right, thank you, my sister. Appreciate, as always, your comments. But, I said it sometimes it feels like I've been cursed only because I know the magnitude of what the colonizers have done to many of us in order to keep us in the state that many of us are in. That's the only reason why sometimes I feel cursed, because let's face it, they have done a good job. They have done an excellent job in getting us to believe that, we are where we're at, and we're behaving the way that we're behaving. So it doesn't motivate you to look beyond the surface to see what the real condition is. And yes, I think I stated this earlier, that I've been blessed to have parents and my big mom in my life that allowed me to develop the way that I have been developed, to see the things that many of us don't see, unfortunately. And that's just the reality of it. And I'm human because, every now and then I speak to that reality, whereas it's so prevalent. So many of us believe the propaganda that America is preaching to us. It's unbelievable. That's why there's people now who are, today they'll be enjoying the Super Bowl. And what has that got to do with us doing what's needed to decolonize ourselves, to return the natural resources to its rightful owners, which is us as the indigenous people of the world, you see. And the only reason why we don't is because we bought into the reality that was painted by the colonizers of the United States of America. That's all that I'm speaking to. But yes, I know I'm blessed. My whole life has been a blessing. And in spite of our condition as a people, I've been able to live a good life. Be with been able to be married for 36 years, have beautiful children and grandchildren. So I'm not despondent, or I'm not sad to the point where I'm angry or anything like that. It's just that I know how much further we can be as a people. You see, that's more so my feelings. Yes, to make heaven on earth, but that's one thing to say the phrase, but to actually come with a strategy in order to be there. See, in order to do that, we have developed we have that strategy that will enable us to make heaven on earth. It's not just a phrase, but we actually are implementing this strategy that will enable us to have that will enable us to decolonize ourselves. And so that's what I speak to, my sister, when I say that it seems or it appears that I'm, but appearance of what seems to be, we very well know. As further, if you dig deeper than the surface of what appears to be and go into under the surface where it actually is, you'll find out what the real truth is. And so, any more comments, brothers and sisters? Would love to hear what you have to say. Someone was trying to speak.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, peace, my brother.
How you doing, Brother Sadi?
Yeah, I'm good. It's as the sister said, we're dealing with people who may appear that they belong on the team. However, they have to believe they belong on the team. And once we get those who believe they belong on a team and are willing to do what is necessary to be on the team, then and only then will we be able to start playing the game in the manner that we need to play it. It's just a matter of, as I said, everyone wearing a different jersey, but we trying to put together one team. And in order to put together that one team, we're going to all have to have the same jersey on. And that's acknowledging ourselves as whom the ancestors were prior to slavery and prior to African American and Moorish American and so forth and so on, and acknowledge ourselves as Moroccan Moors. And that's the strategy and the difficulty to get people to be able to come to that realization. And we're not asking people to throw away the jersey that they wear daily. We're just asking them to be able to put that jersey on in public and put that jersey on for the sake of us winning as an entire team rather than winning individually. And we have so many people who are winning individually till they could care less about the team. So that's another difficult part that we're dealing with. As you mentioned, people who are financially situated, who are comfortable in their life, they don't see anything wrong with the surroundings. So they're comfortable with the way things are now. However, because you grew up in an environment with individuals who enabled you to be a critical thinker, you were able to ask the questions and the universe brought the answer to you. Everyone is not answering the questions because they're not critical thinkers. So some people are going to have to be nudged. For me, personally, it was always something in me that I was never comfortable with from grade school of pledging allegiance to the flag. So I was never comfortable from that point, from first grade. Kindergarten, I was never comfortable. So something was in me years ago. And that's me. So, but as you and I, who have been fortunate enough to be blessed with the information of who our ancestors were prior to slavery, we have to give out that information and keep in mind who we're dealing with and the centuries of indoctrination and the centuries of colonization where many people don't even know colonization exists because it's been disguised as racism. So they don't. So when you say colonize or colonists, you're talking foreign to them. So they don't even see that. They have been conditioned to believe we are being mistreated as a team because of our skin color. That's what has been initiated, and that's what it has been pushed down our throats. And you line 10 people up, and about 9 of them will say, this country's racist, and they won't speak to being colonized. They won't speak to being naturalized and those things because they have no idea it exists. So that's why I can understand why you said you feel like you feel cursed, because you have information that that will be helpful to individuals, and it's like how do you get that information to the individuals in a manner that they will take heed and it will motivate them to get on the team and start practicing to be better so that we can all win as a team. And I close there.
Yes, definitely some valid points, my brother. And you're absolutely right. Because of the fact that the information that we have as far as nationality doesn't negate the fact that you can still be a Christian. You know, you can still be an African American, however you identified yourself as being, you can still be that individual. What we're saying is that we're going to have to collectively come together and agree upon a nationality. And that nationality historically is a Moorish, a Moroccan Moor, because that nationality is what identifies us in the treaties and international laws and other areas in the world that will challenge the banana republic that this country that is called the United States of America and other European powers has used to overthrow not only our government as Moroccans, but other indigenous peoples' government around the world. This is what I'm conveying to the people, because the people have been brainwashed into believing that they're an American citizen, not knowing what their ancestors were prior to becoming a naturalized citizen. You see, there's a process that they had to go through in order to be what they are now, at the expense of our ancestors. Because the land hasn't changed, the people have. Or I should say, the people's psychological condition has changed because of what the colonizers have done to them mentally. But the land and the natural resources that are on that land have changed. What has changed is the relationships of the people who are the natural owners of that land and natural resources. That's what has changed. And all I'm saying is that we need to set the record straight, and we need to overcome that conditioning that was done to us to get us to believe that we are Americans who don't have no natural resources, who don't have no land, who are subjects to a foreign government. You see, that's the reality. And that means that we have to do our research, and we have to go over information that they have conveniently left out when we were taught by them. But brothers and sisters, man, it's about that time. How time flies when you really have something to say. But I appreciate everybody taking the time to spend some time with me and Coach T, and we look forward to spending more time with you next Sunday. Now, I always in parting say that I love each and every one of you with all my heart, and there is nothing, I mean nothing, you can do about it. And so with love, with the latest version of the Wake Everybody song, and I hope, well, let me state that immediately following this podcast is Positive Act by Sister Deborah, and it's my stating that the health man, Brother Abdul, will be coming on because of the Super Bowl. So we look forward to spending time with them, or with him next Sunday, but this Sunday, Sister Deborah with Positive Impact will immediately follow this podcast. But as I was saying, I love you all, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Peace.
Wake up, wake up. You've got the power. You've got my people in the east, yo, you gotta wake up. Midwest, 30 South, yo, you gotta stand up. All my homies in the west, yo, you gotta wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. When we scream it out loud, do you believe that we need it? Do you believe that it could get right? Do you believe that the children of the world deserve a good life? Well, if you do, it's time to wake up your mind. We can make it better, and I know it might take some time, but we gotta start somewhere. How about with you and me? From us it goes to others, then we'll have our unity. Wake up, all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer, who catch all the hell, but they don't have so very long before the judgment day. So won't you make them happy before they pass away? Wake up from the builders, time to build a new land. I know we can do it, long as we lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our minds, and surely things will work out, 'cause they do it. I ain't here to take up y'all time. I came to shake up y'all mind. It's everybody's wake up call time. I can't sleep too long. Why they do the people wrong? Let's clean the world up before they sweep you gone. This is real talk. You can peek through songs. So when you feel weak, these words will keep you strong and help make a change for the better. It's hard for one to do it, but we can make some changes together.